a dangerous array of players that can hit the scoreboard too, Port Melbourne.
So away we go. Round number 2 of the Rebel VFL. And looks like the Pies will get hands to it first. Here's Ryan, their captain. Toss the coin just a little bit earlier. Port Melbourne kicking towards the right of screen after winning the toss. Ball right near that boundary line, that Anastasio pocket. It could be another spectacular goal. It's going to go across the face. And will it go out? It eventually does go out. Shuti seeing that ball out of play right near the function centre. That's full for Good Friday. They put a function on, a double header here for Port Melbourne. They're playing Frankston in the VFL competition after this one. And the ground, we've got to say, in immaculate condition. As this ball's held up, trying to get away is Peterson. Was dispossessed. She's trying to paddle in front. Eventually lost a handle. It actually ended up behind her. And we'll have another stoppage.
Pete, I'm not sure if you've seen, but there's a giant Easter bunny right in front of us, signalling that it is, in fact, Easter weekend.
Got any chocolate?
I think it does, but you've missed out.
Right, well, we're going to investigate that throughout the afternoon as play continues. Here's Reid, Stella Reid for Port Melbourne at the bottom of that pack. Missing their captain, Olivia Barton, walked out with the premiership flag a little bit earlier. Got an ankle injury, out for around the next month or so. Hopefully a little bit before that.
A couple of other injuries at Port Melbourne are pretty significant. Beth Wilson is still missing with concussion. She was really important in that grand final. And their boom recruit from the off-season, Jordan Mifsud, is still out with a hand fracture. So this isn't even their full-strength side, Port Melbourne.
Yeah, they were super strong last week in that win over Essendon. Caruso will just work it across the ground. Bacon trying to find some space. The kick going inside 50. No, could take clean possession. Opportunity for the Pies to clear. A long ball. This is Ingram heading out towards the middle of the ground. It's going to come straight back in again. Line, push back. And the Borough should be able to do something here. Izzy Hartog will go over the top, up towards half forward.
Oh,
it's good stuff at the moment. Great skills from Seaton. As this kick goes inside 50, it's going to be turned over. And the Pies again with an opportunity to clear, but they just can't get it over halfway, and it's going to be cut off again. Seaton coming in. Ball shallow inside 50. The Pies defence under all sorts of pressure at the moment. Quick kick out, Woolcock. Heading towards the forward pocket. Plenty of Pies numbers, though, around the footy. And they'll be able to clear wide. They might be able to get something going here. The Jacome will work in ever-diminishing circles. Had to get around a couple. Did well in the end. And this is Steph Williams to get Collingwood going. Probably inside 50 for the first time. She can get the kick away. Does inside 50. Plenty of numbers, though, at the back here for the Borough. It's been quite the frenetic start. We've had very few stoppages in these opening minutes of play. The ball heading towards the line. O'Keefe around the footy, but they've still got the numbers on the grandstand side. And now we will have a stoppage, so Gemma, you can jump in.
You mentioned Steph Williams. This is her first game for Collingwood this season, or at all, because it's her first season at Collingwood, but she's been brought in to play against her old side. Obviously, she was a Richmond AFLW listed player, so played with Port Melbourne in the VFLW. Her first game for the Pies against her old team.
So here's Lennox, who will take the free kick from the out of bounds. Outside the arcs, of course, as ball heading forward. Ryan just hacking it off the ground. Heading towards the boundary line again. Freeman for Collingwood, the bottom of that pack, and the umpire immediately coming in. And we'll throw up this footy.
One thing we do know about Port Melbourne is how well organised that defensive unit is. Maggie McCullough's come into that and was outstanding last week, and Lauren Caruso, obviously the grand final best on ground, and their best and fairest last year. So they've got some really good, cool heads back there.
It took a while to get going last week, Port Melbourne. You were calling that game. They didn't kick a goal in the opening quarter, but after half-time they just went bang.
And that was what was important, was that even when they weren't quite working the way they wanted to, they were still able to minimise the impact on the scoreboard. So then when they put their foot down, it was really damaging.
So Seaton's kick is going wide. It's a short ball, but a good one. Harley, one of the vice-captains for the club this season. So that's a teammate running this ball over the top, and they have got some good run here. This is going to be set up nicely for the first goal, you'd suspect, for the Borough. If this bounces up, oh, it didn't. Oh, it's a comedy of errors. Unfortunately, that ball didn't bounce back. It is so annoying when that happens, Gemma. But a free kick's going to eventuate anyway. Caitlin Cox was charging towards the goal, and she'll end up having the shot anyway.
Caitlin Cox, famous for her speed and hopefully also her accuracy.
That's pretty much an open goal to work with. Unfortunately, with the set shot, not able to get the results.
Caitlin is an AFLW listed Tiger, one of a few out there today, and they're trying really hard to work her up as a small forward rather than as a small defender. Make use of that speed that she has in their attacking half at the feet of some of their key talls. But those are the sorts of opportunities you need to make the most of.
Yeah, Taylor, the ball into the path of Lily Pearce, who couldn't take the mark for Collingwood. They've still got the run. Oh, Ryan, second to the footy, had to lay the tackle. And we've got a tripping free kick to all of that, or below the knee free kick. And it'll be Hannah Dyson to take it for Collingwood. Right near Port Melbourne's premiership flag as the ball heading towards the line. Trying desperately to keep this footy in is Ava Campbell, set upon by a couple of Borough players, and the umpire will intervene.
How's that Port Melbourne pressure, though? Caitlin Cox misses the opportunity for the goal, but follows up with a really good tackle in the forward 50, and now they've created another opportunity by way of it pressure.
So the quick kick out of the pack. Ramos so good last week in the loss to the Southern Saints, the leading disposal winner on the ground. Has turned the footy over on this occasion. McKellar. Wide up. Caruso will work up the corridor where they do have some numbers here. Bella Clark has it. Will go with a shorter ball into the middle of the ground. Can they get some overlap run going? They can. Through. Experienced player. Kicking wide. Good mark. And Harley has taken the mark. Nicely done by the Borough.
Something we know about the Borough is how well Federica Frew and Emily Harley connect with one another. They've both got a massive boot on them as well, so they can get really dangerous with one coming up out of the 50 and the other staying there because they can find each other and hit those further distances.
So, Emily Harley, we had the first blemish of the season for the Borough earlier. Let's see if they can keep their impressive goal streak going. They can. That's the first of the game. And it goes to one of the vice-captains. One of the other things too, Gemma, I think we're going to see with Port Melbourne in particular in this competition, which we see in the VFL competition, it's a destination club. When the culture that they've built here, obviously the success with the premiership, but it's a club that players want to come and play at.
And a big part of that is that they play really attacking football. And we see, and we will see as it goes on, but even that passage of play, they want to find the open side, they want to find the run, they want to find really aggressive attack. They're not a team that allows themselves to get bogged down into repeat stoppages, and that sort of stuff is really good, and being able to find gears in a game, especially when it's wet, how to adapt to that. But they also, on a day like today, which you've mentioned is beautiful, a bit too hot for my liking, Pete, but make use of those conditions. Get to the open side. Use the runners you have. Use the long kickers you have.
Oh, it's still summer, Gemma, isn't it? As the ball in the middle of the ground.
Awful.
Woolcock. We'll talk about Gemma's hibernation routine a little bit later in the broadcast if we get time. Pearce. Working again to the middle of the ground. It's hard and tough stuff, and we'll have this ball thrown up. If you are new to the Rebel VFLW competition, Port Melbourne playing with some Richmond AFLW listed players as part of their partnership. So if you're a Tigers fan and you're in the local area, get down here because it's a beautiful afternoon for footy. As the Pies with maybe a bit of an opportunity here. Ramos trying to get that handball out. It's been turned over. Working its way through to Jacome. And eventually, that's dropping the footy. Umpire didn't see it. Ramos was brought down. Trying to get in there. Caruso. They pile in on top, and the umpire says, we'll stop that.
Speaking of AFLW listed Tigers, Pete, I am so excited about Izzy Bacon, who's out there today for Port Melbourne. In that half back line, she's so clean, so athletic. She's fun to watch.
Ball going nowhere in a hurry again. Should be another stoppage.
For those playing at home, she's wearing the number 57. She was picked 13 in the AFLW draft in December. December 18, Pete.
So, ball tossed up. Trying to clear it is Clark. That's Bella Clark for Port Melbourne. And another stoppage again as we work our way to the midpoint of this opening quarter here at North Port Oval.
If you look at this setup now, look how well drilled Port Melbourne's defensive unit is.
I'm getting another view of it here, and it'll be another stoppage. Should also mention too that the former AFLW forward Steph Williams playing for Collingwood today against, well, theoretically is
her old side.
Old side. Being delisted as the ball heading towards the line, and again we'll have this tossed in.
So if you watch these stoppages in Collingwood's forward half, you'll see that Maggie McKellar, number 10 for Port Melbourne, is always sitting as that goalkeeper in the square, and then Steph Williams and her opponent sitting another step away, and then Port Melbourne defends that little bit higher as well. So they've got those layers to their defensive unit.
It's the ball here with Caruso. Just a clearing kick, may only be temporary as it heads towards the boundary line. It's kept in nicely. The Pies will give themselves an opportunity here, but in close quarters. Now the kick heading towards that goalkeeper kind of region. It'll be a race in 3. Oh, going off the ground. Osborne couldn't pick it up. And good tackling pressure from the Pies forwards. Adams not getting it going away or getting out of that, and we'll have it tossed up top of the goal square.
It's because of those layers that the Borough always has the outnumber when the ball does go over the back like that.
So can Osborne get onto it for Collingwood? An area there from McKellar, just trying to clear the area as Gemma was talking about. As again, no one's going to get out of this one in a hurry. Should also shout out too for Collingwood, Maya Allen, the 18-year-old, is making her debut at VFLW level after coming through the Coates League, playing for the Oakley Chargers.
Yeah, and another one who made a debut last week, Ava Campbell. She was overlooked in the draft, but still has a lot to offer, especially at this level. She's got nice height on her and is quite skillful. So there's a few players out there that you may not know if you're just an AFLW fan, but are really dangerous.
So Kate Adams in the back pocket for Port Melbourne. That kick heading outside the 50, and this one's going to be into the path of Stutz. It is off hands. Is this going to be classed as a throw? No, it's going to be a Collingwood free kick.
Should mention that Campbell is the niece of our makeup artist at AFL House, so we had to give her a shout out as well.
Consider that done. Feel that probably that's going to happen a couple of times as the ball here. Let's have a look at the Borough setup as they clear. Borg will work into the middle of the ground. Good tackling pressure again by Caitlin Cox, and that is holding the footy. And they want to get moving quickly. So the kick heads up towards half forward. On the end of it is Frew. Now who's going to present? Inside 50. It's a low spearing ball. Didn't quite hit its target. Frew now going to have to lay the tackle. But Ryan's there for Collingwood. And they should be able to clear the immediate danger. Watts. Handball over the top. Here's Ingram. Under some pressure, kicking into the middle of the ground and turning the footy over. Woolcock will go high, deep, inside 50. Still can't find a mark. It's an intriguing battle inside the arcs for both teams at the moment, and the umpire will throw it up.
Now, I've talked probably already ad nauseum about that Port Melbourne setup in defence. We haven't seen the same from Collingwood, so when the ball does get out into space, they look really vulnerable.
So, Woolcock brought down. And the umpire will come in again.
We've also seen a few really important moments from Caitlin Cox that prove just why they want her in the front half at Richmond and why she can be so dangerous in that position.
A high contact free kick will go Port Melbourne's way. And Patterson with the footy in hand.
Was brilliant last week, Maddie Patterson.
Goes with a kick to the top of the goal square. That's too easy. That is too easy. How Frew found that much room surrounded by Collingwood players, I'll never know.
It was almost like Taylor just misread the drop of the ball, thought it was coming shorter than it was, and Frew was able to take it easy over the back.
Can't give a quality player like Frew that sort of space.
No.
Because it's going to be a mark every single time, and from this distance you suspect a goal.
Yeah. No, you're the one that said it.
Yeah, I did.
It was you that time, that wasn't me.
Sure, that'll be a discussion on state of play.
Joey will pick that up.
Gemma and Joey, well, it'd be nice for him to actually put in some sort of contribution to the podcast. I feel you're doing just the lion's share of the work this season as Lennox to bring the footy back in. At least he's advanced from starting out where his only words were hello and goodbye, but good to see. And you can get that wherever you get your podcasts, looking at the Rebel VFLW and the Smithies VFL competitions. Great interviews too. Download it wherever you get your podcast from. Great tackling pressure again by the Borough. Walsh trying to get away. Eventually the footy released. But look at this. 2-3 Port Melbourne players to 1 Collingwood player. And we'll have it tossed up.
Port Melbourne are really well set here for that quick kick out from Collingwood as well. So this is an opportunity for them to maintain that forward territory.
So ball off hands. Remos for Collingwood. Just dropping in front was Nicky Watts. Set a task for Peterson, and that's holding the footy. And they're just tackling the pressure. 2 or 3 players taking on every Collingwood player. Seaton's kick inside 50. Not the greatest. It's going to be turned over. Walsh will go into the middle of the ground, into the path here of Williams. Here is Williams, 360 in the tackle. Doesn't have an option to go to. Ball say the crowd. Umpire says play on. And it's a chance here for Collingwood just to reset. Here's Campbell. Player that Gemma has just mentioned. Debuted last week. Connections to the team on the State of Play podcast as the ball into the path of Bacon, who's dragged down in the tackle, and the umpire will call a stop to this as we head towards quarter time.
Izzy Bacon, do you reckon she should have had that free for holding the ball there?
Well, they've been reasonably consistent on it in this opening quarter, so you felt it fit the penalty as, again, the Pies just trying to get away. And that ball is right near that line, but it's going to be a free kick going the way of Collingwood. And Francis Walsh to take it. Chipping ball, dangerous, but front position from Remos, who wants to get going, and just off target.
I like the proactivity from Collingwood there, trying to break free of the congestion that they know that the Borough can bring. I know the shot missed, but it was the right idea, wasn't it, Pete?
Yep. It's positive play as Ramos goes wide. And just going to take their time here in this opening quarter. The reigning premier taking on the grand finalists from last season. The rematch. The ball here into the path of Lucy Cronin. And Owen again can get clear from this. Just trying to paddle forward is Ryan for Collingwood, but it's in Borough hands. Oh. Here's Frew. Great body work. It's a wide open 50. So this is just a kick, hoping that someone's going to get onto the end of it. You might pick one of your quickest players in Caitlin Cox, who needed to pick up the footy. Good burst of speed. And now tackling pressure as well. Trying to release that footy, then gets hands to it herself. Ball now spilling free. Here's Watts. Go with that ball that just dropping short. Now they could try and get some run happening. But every time they try and run, they've dragged down. Campbell just got the handball out as we head towards centre half forward. Who's here at the back? It's Bacon for the Port Melbourne side. Works it to Caruso. Can they get some run going? It's McKellar to the one-on-one contest. It was dangerous. Hartog just trying to paddle in front. Luckily, Caruso was there. They work it across the ground. They could get some run going. Here's Stutz. Works into the middle of Northport Oval or ETU Stadium. Reed, kick towards the 50 or inside 50. Leading in the race is Frew, trying to do the bodywork. Has plenty of teammates in space. The shot at goal, just off target, but it was another great build-up from Port Melbourne. And just that kick from Williams off target.
I love how aggressive Port Melbourne is in the way that they transition the footy. They're willing to take that risky kick into the corridor to open up the space.
So Lennox doing the kicking out, but that is quarter time. And it is the Port Melbourne's quarter number 2, and it's Pearce getting the big punch down for Collingwood, but a free kick will go the way of the Pies. And they'll be looking for a fast start in this second quarter. And the long ball coming in from Ingram up towards half forwards. Jackamie's going to be the player. Try and put in the don't argue. Looking for Williams right near the player race. And we'll have that ball tossed in.
The wind has picked up a little bit, Pete, but I don't know if it's significant enough that it's going to, it's not a goal difference or anything, but it is making those kicks hold up a little bit in the breeze going to the left of screen.
It's hard to tell, Jim, because they've done the old Kevin Sheedy on the other side of the ground and taped the flags, their premiership flag. So not able to see exactly which way it's going on that side of the ground.
Do you want it waving around so it's affecting the fans' ability to see the game?
Will look good on TV.
It's
all that matters, isn't it? And wherever you're watching this game, enjoying the action in the sun, here's Dyson. Win the ball into a dangerous position for the Pies. Williams coming through, but numbers for the Borough coming through. Gee, that was well done in the end, but they still can't just lock that footy in, the Pies. And here's Borg and finds Patterson. And they've got some overlap run as well. They're so well drilled, this Port Melbourne side. As soon as I say that, Williams lost a handle on the footy. But still in dispute in the middle of the ground. There's 3 Collingwood players defensive side, and the umpire's going to pick out a free kick. So they should be able to get away here. That's going to be 50 metres. Was that through the protected zone, Gemma, I wonder?
The reaction of the players suggests that's the case.
And here is Maya Allen, as mentioned, coming through the Coates Talent League for the Oakley Chargers. Gets an opportunity with Collingwood as they work out where the 50 metres will be set.
Such a huge penalty in VFLW, isn't it?
The 18-year-old, absolutely. The kick is good! A goal in your debut match. And what a moment for the 18-year-olds.
That's brilliant. We've seen a few experienced players have set shots on goal at that end of the ground and not be able to pierce it, but she was able to really just stay calm. And we did mention the wind. It is affecting the way balls are flying through the air, whether it's to advantage or not, but she just navigated it beautifully. And, you've got to take chances like that, especially against a team like Port Melbourne, if you're any chance. So that was pretty impressive.
Second kick, first goal. Not first kick for first goal, first kick. It is very impressive. As we're back in the middle. And well done there by Dennehy Maloney to get that footy away. Seaton kicks inside 50 for the Borough. A bit of front-on contact there. Shitty did really well to just hold that pressure. And now here's Cronin, who kicks up the line, heading towards the boundary line here. That was a big hit. Caruso did well just to hold her feet. The ball being out of play, it will be a ball going the way of Port Melbourne.
For a moment, I thought they were going to send that Collingwood's way, which was going to be incorrect, but they've fixed themselves up.
So the kick is beaten the initial pack, beat the pack after that as well, as Cox just puts it inside 50. Here's a go. Frew should finish from here. Yep, no problem at all. Frew with her first of the afternoon, and the response pretty much immediately from Port Melbourne.
We've seen a few times now that bodywork from Frew against some less experienced defenders just nudges them out of the way to create the space over the back. And as we highlighted before, Carly Ramos from a similar position took the mark, recognised she didn't have the length on her kick, wanted to break away. Frew did exactly the same there rather than attempt a set shot, which she's missed earlier in the game. So try to, change things up for herself and navigate that beautifully.
Not only navigating that, but navigating the crowd support as well. And went straight to the bench and got a wonderful ovation from the fans in the Goss stand.
Yes, there are a few fans sitting there in the shade, which is lovely. Good to be here for the flag unfurling and just a really fun game, to be honest.
Oh, guess what? There's going to be a bit of music, I suspect, at halftime as well, just judging by what's being set up over the other side from our commentary position as Ashley Cooper is held up. Louise Ashley Cooper for Port Melbourne.
She was the standing captain today for Port Melbourne, and she was opposing with Meg Ryan, who she spent some time at Essendon with. So they had a bit of a hug in the middle, former teammates.
Nice to see. As Ingram, the only hugging he'll be doing now will be in a tackling sort of motion until the end of the game, of course.
Ingram's still the leading possession getter with 9 for the day so far.
So the ball held up again. I have to mention, we've been a lot of talk about the ETU Stadium surface for many, many, many years, but it is in top nick
I think
today.
this is the best I've ever seen it, personally.
There's the kick going to, well, it's going to be turned over. Shuti has it. The kick in towards centre half forward, hands to it from Ramos. They come straight back out over the head of Ford. Actually beat a couple of players on the way through. Here's a bit of pressure. Taylor just held up in the tackle.
You mentioned Ford, Mackenzie Ford. She's the other draftee from Richmond that's out there today. She's in the bright blue helmet. She was pick 43 in the draft last year, and she is a Tasmanian, so plenty of talk about Tasmanians at the moment in footy.
Yep, most other clubs saying hands off our talent, and here's Campbell, who's got it for Collingwood. Wants to go with a short kick. It's a good option. And good pressure from the Pies. They managed to spread there, and Carly Ramos will have a crack.
Just strong hands from Ramos as well under the pressure. Just got her arms out in front of her rather than trying to take it on her chest, and just held strong.
Was the leading disposal winner on the ground last week with 25 for Collingwood.
She also had 7 tackles and 4 clearances, so big performance. No.
So this kick, well, Gemma told you immediately from left the boot. No, I like it. I like it. Where that was going, and that was a nut.
Carly Ramos is one who was listed with Geelong's AFLW side for a couple of seasons but wasn't really able to make a go of it. So good to see her taking a fresh start in the VFLW and really attacking it.
Bella Clark kicked to Borg, who was under pressure but then was able to release. And they're on that other side of the ground, the grandstand side. Then Maloney works it into the middle. And this is where they've struggled a little bit in this second quarter, Port Melbourne. Ramos trying to get that ball away. It's in dispute, but here's Ryan swooping onto it. We'll go with a long kick and a long ball. Might have been a bit of front-on contact there. Yeah, Clark copying it from Williams. Will take the free kick. Wide. Caruso looks up the ground. A whole lot of one-on-ones. So we'll just run it outside the 50.
It's a great option.
It is. O'Keefe will go towards that grandstand side where they do have the numbers and can load up from here. As Denny Maloney will go long and find Harley. Goal kicker in the opening quarter. The kick over the top. The lead coming there from Reed. Couldn't quite pick it up. Now has to do the tackling work, but Cronin is there for Collingwood. Slotted teammate into a bit of trouble, and Hartog is doing the tackling work for Port Melbourne. We'll have it tossed up.
That was seriously good defensive work from Lucy Cronin, who was a bolter in the draft. No one really saw her being picked up as soon as she was.
As the ball should be cleared. Allen. Oh, how was the disposal? Not great. But that forward pressure from Port Melbourne showing through again. And they'll end up with another shot at goal. And, well, they're just continuing to build that pressure, as you say. Caitlin Cox, the chance to have the shot here.
I think what's so impressive about Port Melbourne is the way they're able to transition from that outside aggressive running game to the high pressure game that requires such a high work rate. And that's what is above everything, their work rate.
So Caitlin Cox with the short run up directly in front, pushes it to the left.
She's been so close to being arguably the best player on the ground, Caitlin Cox. She's in everything. She just needs to convert.
And there's that burst of speed you talked about, Gemma, that she's been able to put on. A couple of times we've seen that on display, but here's an error. Forwards underneath it. The Pies, the punch not the best option there. Here's a chance to make them pay. Harley kicked into the player in front of her. Now the kick, clearing kick for the Pies. They'll get a bit of temporary relief here. Into the path of Osborne, who's just second to the footy. Well done there by Line, who can go up the line and head up towards half forward. Working nicely is Stutz. Eventually managed to release it. Ashley Cooper trying to go round the body. It's a good option. And here's Patterson. Right near the boundary line. We'll just put up the high kick. Long ball. Off hands. Plenty of numbers here for the Pies. They should be able to clear. Oh, gosh, that was a high tackle anyway. And brought down, coat-hangered, was Casey Lennox, but I think the free kick was earlier in that play.
Yes.
And Casey Lennox is in a bit of trouble. That was a high tackle. It was around the neck, Gemma, but in the end it's going to be a free kick anyway.
We should clarify, no malice in that. It was just a bit sloppy from Port Melbourne in the attempt to tackle, but she's up and walking now. She's okay.
Yep, she's fine. In the meantime, the umpire has said it's going to be a Port Melbourne free kick. So I didn't see the original infringement, Gemma.
I think it may have been incorrect disposal.
In the meantime, well, anyway, Stella Reid's got it and kicks the goal. It's one of those interesting ones because the free kick was called, the whistle blew, and then that high tackle happened.
Yeah.
So was there the opportunity to potentially reverse it? But I guess, as you say, Gemma, it wasn't a malicious act to be able to turn that footy over.
Bit different if the free kick's been paid, the ball stops, and you clock someone and they fall.
Yeah.
That's where you overturn it. But if it's just the play continued, an error happened, you can't really turn that over. But good from Stella Reid to go back and convert there. She's had a slightly quieter start to the season than she did last year. Obviously trying to build up her endurance to get those midfield minutes in, obviously as a Richmond AFLW player, but generally plays forward when she's playing at AFLW level. So finding that sweet spot between each line is important for Stella Reid. Get amongst it, but also hit the scoreboard.
So Denahi Maloney working against Pearce. And this is locked in.
We should mention Denahi Maloney is Joey's new favourite player, purely because of her nickname, which is Barry. We did an interview with Molly after the game last week, and she said it's because she has an alter ego when she's on the field.
Yep.
But according to Emily Harley, it's because she sounds like a man when she's on the field. So
Okay.
different perspectives.
On that, you be the judge. Here's Frew kicking inside 50 in the path of Harley. Getting there first was Lennox. Let's turn the footy over. Stutz. Short ball, Frew, back on the grounds. Kick a log ball all the way over the top. Cox had the opportunity. Good pressure here from Collingwood. Taylor at the bottom of that pack, going nowhere in a hurry. It does eventually spill free. Quick kick out of the pack by Cox, right to the line. And safety first from Dyson. Sees it over for a rush behind.
If you're Caitlin Cox, are you the most frustrated player on the ground right now? So close every time.
Well, so close to a couple of spectacular goals.
Yeah.
To set up. As the kick here going into the middle of the ground. Can they get something going through Campbell, Collingwood? Oh, no, call to play on, in trouble. And I think the umpire will say, look, you didn't have a prior opportunity.
She did play on, changed her mind, but Port Melbourne was all over her.
Whistle, push out, free kick going Port Melbourne's way. So Denny Maloney set the Borough inside 50. And, well, for mine, Gemma, that's far too easy in terms of coming in off the lead. Emily Harley just had the space and took an easy mark in the end.
What you do notice watching that Port Melbourne forward line is there's always so much movement. There's so many options. And because there's so much happening, it's really hard to defend that because you don't know which lead is going to be taken. So it really separates the defence. As a forward, you just got to always be on the move.
As I mentioned, a goal in the opening quarter. 45 out to the line. I don't think anyone touched that. That's through.
Told you she was a long kick.
Second goal of the afternoon. And they are flying along. I know it's very early on in the season, but what we're seeing here from this Port Melbourne team, very easy to say pick up from where they left off, but that you just think that it's just a continuation. They didn't even have an off-season.
Yeah, and it's that attacking footy, isn't it? Obviously, coming up against a side like Collingwood that is completely fresh, so finding that chemistry between lines, finding their ways to support one another, it takes time because you haven't had that before with these players. But Port Melbourne is such a team that is in synergy with one another. From line to line, they know what to expect of one another and they know how to support each other.
As the kick goes inside the 50 again for Port Melbourne. Trying really hard just to stem the tide. Dyson for Collingwood trying to do that. They come piling in.
Now, Pete, I'm going early with this. We've just had 4 new coaches appointed in the AFLW. In the next cycle of coaching positions available in the AFLW, surely Sean Bunkle has to be in that conversation.
With what he's been able to do here, to bringing this group together.
Sometimes at this level in a second-tier competition, whether it's men's or women's, it can be hard to find a brand because you don't have consistency in players that you have available to you, players that are going to be there in pre-season, anything like that. But he's been able to find a very clear brand in the way that they want to play and executed it beautifully.
Well, just look at the numbers who have stayed on at Port Melbourne from season to season. And I'm talking primarily there about the Port Melbourne listed players as opposed to the Richmond, because there'll obviously be fluctuations with Richmond's AFLW team.
Yeah.
But they keep together, and that's the thing I was saying earlier about the culture that they've built here just as a club. Like, men's, women's, doesn't matter. There's just a culture about this place in its 150th year that the players want to come down and play, including Frederica Frew, who just puts another one through. The floodgates opening a little bit here. 2 in this quarter. But just back to that point, I mean, you look at the numbers of players, and you know, it's the top-end talent that's staying here at Port Melbourne. And then they're able to recruit from other VFLW sides, yes, but also AFLW players. And that's just a familiar pattern that we see here.
And I think the other part of it is Bunkle has a really good knack of creating a game style that plays to his players' best assets. So Federica Frew might not be the best runner in the team, but you know what she can offer you in terms of bodywork, marking, and the long kick. Emily Harley's similar.
Yep.
But then you have, you know, Maggie McKellar, who's young and emerging, and you put her in that anchor role in defence, and you know that she'll excel.
Yep.
So finding ways to bring the best out of your players is such an important part of being a coach.
Yeah, and the opportunities for AFLW draft selections from this Port Melbourne team, you suspect that that's going to grow as the years go along as well. As Patterson inside 50. This ball's going to be cut off, though. Pies just need to rally a bit. Just need to play a little bit of a tempo footy.
Yeah, just controlling it a little bit. Kick mark. Don't let that pressure come into it. Be aware of your positioning so that when Port Melbourne do win it back, they don't have free rein running into attack as if there's just space everywhere.
So the footy being turned over again. Here's McKellar.
Look how quickly Port Melbourne run back into their attacking line when the ball's been won.
Oh, good smother. Just as relentless at the moment. Pearce trying to get away. Every time a Collingwood player picks up the footy, they're set upon. They can't find any free space, and the ball will be tossed up here. Oh, a bit of push and shove going on. Nothing malicious in that. As this footy will be considered. It's a throw, the umpire says. It will be a Collingwood free kick. Can they get something going before half time? Ball wide, Jarvis just went with the short kick. Now, can they build something here? Up towards centre wing. The answer to that is no. And away go Port Melbourne. Seaton running through the middle of the ground. Through on the lead. Almost. It was in the fingertips. It couldn't finish the mark, but what a quarter that was for Port Melbourne. 5-5-35 plays 1-8. 4 goals, 2 in that quarter for the Borough. And for Collingwood, they kicked 1 goal, 1. So as they make their way from the ground, Gemma Beston, but back to business here, and we have the second half underway as the wind starts to pick up. Always does as the umpire blows the whistle and the siren sounds to get play underway.
Yep, you thought that we could turn up that effects mic, but evidently that's not the case.
Not happening. Not happening. Anyway, clearing ball. Jarvis, it may only be temporary. Slaloming around is Walsh trying to get out of the traffic. And it's going to be chopped off again. Denhay Maloney will handball off to Stutz, who goes inside 50, and this footy is going to be turned over. Good mark taken by Lennox, who will go wide. Kick into the path there of Allen, who now has to lay the tackle. It's right near the boundary line. 2-on-1 in favour of Collingwood, and that ball is locked in, and we'll have it tossed up.
Not an ideal start for Collingwood, being automatically trapped in their back half, but they do have representation ahead of the ball. They've evened up the numbers, so when they kick forward, it's not going to be just straight to a bunch of Port Melbourne players.
Ryan laying the tackle, holding the footy, the results. So the captain of the Collingwood Football Club will take the free kick. And kicks up the line to line. Oh, that was handy. As the ball spills free, Pearce. I'm not repeating myself, folks. It's at centre-half forward.
You have said that twice today, though, Pete.
I know, well aware. That'll come up in the review, I'm sure. As Seaton, quick kick inside 50 is good. And Hartog has the mark. And they'll be lining up for a shot at goal.
I don't know that Hartog has this boot in them, so they'll be looking for those leads, which is something Collingwood's defence needs to be aware of.
So, Izzy Hartog will have a go anyway. I'll have a go at the trip from just inside the 50. Put up to the top of the goal square. Well, look at that anyway. You get the same results. Patterson, great hands. And we'll line up for her first of the afternoon.
Just goes to show that you can't fall asleep as a defender, even as a player is lining up for a set shot. Still have to defend your players right until the ball's dead.
So, Patterson to get Port Melbourne off to the ideal start in this third quarter, and does.
What a beautiful kick.
Had plenty of height, and just beautifully, just chipping over the top.
It was. And shout out to Izzy Hartog, who last week had an incredible goal-saving dive to just touch the ball to prevent Essendon from kicking a goal, and now has set up another. But that was Maddie Patterson, who was outstanding last week, probably a little bit underrated in contrast to some of her teammates, but that is one of the neatest set shot kicks you'll ever see, Pete.
So we wait now for the umpire to throw this ball up. And the goal fest continues for Port Melbourne early on in this season. 9 straight last week in their win over Essendon. And they're adding some more here. Hartog manages to get the handball out. Away they go again. Stutz, kick inside 50. Clean bowls the pack. Working to the back there, Shooty, as the good kick goes wide. And there's Peterson at half back. Looks up.
One of the co-winners of the Lambert Pierce medal last year as well.
And into the path there of Ashley Cooper. The turnover. And the clash of bodies on that grandstand side. Ryan gang tackled and going absolutely nowhere.
We should give a shout out to Amber Schutte and Lucy Cronin, who were both drafted by Collingwood in December's AFLW draft. They've been key pillars of that defence for the Pies, and they've definitely stood up strong in the face of a bit of an onslaught, we should say. But they're really promising looks at what Collingwood's AFLW defence can look like in the coming years.
So another stalemate on centre wing. Just to the edge of the square, I should say, is maybe taken without the footy there. That Collingwood player, Hartog, had the footy, lost the footy, then had to lay the tackle. Pearce just trying to find a path through, and it's just bumped off the footy. Borg, yeah, this is going to be a downfield free kick, you suspect, because Borg was dealt with after the footy was released, and so Reid will take the free kick for Port Melbourne, or not. Okay, decided not to. Patterson again.
Patterson again, and we know she can kick him from this distance. It's just from the other side of the ground. But you just can't be giving Port Melbourne a ground up to Port Melbourne like that, because they will take full advantage.
So Pearce, not as much of a loop on that one, or a chip on that one. It's out of bounds on the full.
Other side of the ground, completely threw Patterson off.
Well, we'll see where the leading patterns go as the quarter goes along. But the Pies looking to clear the area. It's Osborne with a great mark. They're in front of the grandstand, the Norm Goss stand. The kick up the line, McKellar first to the footy for Port Melbourne. And we'll have it tossed up.
Pete, I think Ava Seaton is one of the finds of the off-season across the VFLW. She's had the 9 disposals. She's also laid 10 tackles for the game so far. She had 12, I think, last week as well. Her ability to go from that inside contested footy to outside run is really, really good, and it's why she fits this Port Melbourne game plan so well. From
the University of Queensland, as the kick goes deep inside the 50. Well, the last line of defence here is Lennox doing well just to hold up the footy. Frew just paddling forwards. Pies should have some numbers here, though. This is dangerous. Is this going to go out? It might just pitch inside. Clark's got some work to do, being harassed and harangued by Peterson, and that will be a Collingwood free kick.
Yeah, it just came off the boot right at the last moment as she was trying to let it just roll out.
And that's going to be a good follow-up from Borg. And holding the footy as the result. Is that going to be 50 metres? It is, because that ball wasn't released correctly. And Sarah Ingram will be doing the walking back for Collingwood.
Bit of frustration coming into Collingwood's game this quarter, giving up some free kicks that are just ill-disciplined ones, and I think Borg is getting under their skin a little bit because she's been on the receiving end of a couple.
Chance at the first for her for the afternoon, and the kick is good. Jeez. Yeah, got there. Only just, but it made it.
It was unconvincing is the way you describe that. It was just a low floater, wasn't it? But it was well done by Port Melbourne's forwards, their work on the line. And, you know, Collingwood's defenders probably could have put a bit more effort into getting a touch on that ball, but they're just, as we said, well drilled. And that's the thing that Collingwood needs to build up to with so much change is chemistry between each line, understanding what each person's role is in what moment of the game. So it's something we'll see them evolve into. But the ill-disciplined free kicks are the ones you just absolutely can't give up, especially 50-metre penalties in this sort of game.
Particularly when they did well to get themselves out of a bit of trouble there at half-back.
Yes.
So away we go again. The reigning premiers showing exactly why they are the dominant force in this Rebel VFLW competition. Ball spilling out of the hands of Remos at the bottom of that pack. The Pies still just trying to hack forward. Haven't really been forward of centre in this third quarter thus far, but they might get the opportunity now, although this is into the path of Adams. There's a couple actually of Borough players that could raffle it off. Here is Caruso. as the kick goes up towards the grandstand side. Trying to hit it to advantage was Williams. Did a good job of that again. Here's Cox to just get something going inside 50. No paddle. Maybe taken without the footy actually in the end. No call from the umpire, but here's a tackling pressure again. The umpire says that was a little bit too high from Patterson. And so a free kick will go to the Pies as Walsh's kick doesn't find the targets. The pressure they're under. Walsh will have a second go. Again, doesn't quite meet the target, but that's the pressure that Collingwood's under. The turnover is on. This ball held up, and the umpire says, give it to me.
Jesse Williams considered retirement, and then the flag spurred her on to keep playing footy. Was really important last week late with 2 goals with some really smart movement around the ball, and she's just shown again that little tap on, little things like that keep the ball moving in her team's favour. You can't train that footy smarts, can you? It's all experience.
So Ford does well to get around the player on the mark, but turns the footy over, and Ramos takes the uncontested mark there. And we'll go wide. Peterson. Called to play on, and running out of options. Had a couple of players on the overlap in the end. Ramos. Kick up towards half forward in the Williams direction. Just worried off the footy by Bacon. They should be able to get it back into the middle of the ground. Borg, handball over the top, didn't quite hit the target. And the Pies, well, again, they just can't get away. Borg again, worked it across Stutz, getting some good possessions in this third quarter to line. Kick is beautiful. And when they do get that little bit of space, they make their opposition pay, and Stella Reid will line up for goal number 2.
Gee, I'm such a fan of Izzy Bacon. She was the one that turned that ball into Port Melbourne's favour there. Just unsettling her opposition to create the turnover for her team. She won't get a stat for it because she didn't actually possess the footy, but she created this.
Suspect that might be noticed in the three-quarter time address. As will that finish. Goal number 2 for Stella Reid. Goal number 3 for Port Melbourne in this quarter. 3 goals straight to no score in this third term for the reigning Premier.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We talked in that first quarter in particular a lot about how Port Melbourne switches coming out of the back half. They're very organised and they're very quick to get on an aggressive attacking run. Collingwood tried that there to exit out the open side, but they just get held up that little bit by the pressure. So then, their disposal isn't as clean, or they get hurried into playing on, and it just isn't as neat and tidy and aggressive in the way that they're able to come out of that back half. And it is such a stark difference between the way they're playing.
So the ball back in the middle. Can they get some clean possession here, the Pies, as Dyson around a couple. Again, just lost a handle on it. And this should be... Oh, it's going to be holding the footy. It's going to be holding the footy. I'm pretty sure there that Ava Seaton was thinking, well, the ball's wrapped up. We're done here. But the umpire just held and held and held. You got to play to the call.
She had a bit of a laugh after she got rid of the footy there.
So Ryan, whose kick up to the top of the 50, working her way around was Campbell, but just ran out of room in the end. And so McKellar will go short. Oh, Seaton. That almost been a free kick. Good pressure from the Pies. Seaton with the tackling pressure follow-up. Here's Dyson. Lost a handle on it again. Look how many Port players are around this contest right now. They should be able to get the overlap run, and they do. The kick up towards half forward. Over the head there of Harley. And still being paddled inside 50. Plenty of numbers, though, for the Pies. Cronin will kick wide. Osborne just caught at the back there. Caruso leading in the race. Osborne with the tackle. Handball dragged out. This is going nowhere. The umpire surely should say we're throwing this one up.
It's work rate. It's all work rate. And Ava Seaton is the absolute poster child of that today. Defensively there, multiple efforts to try and win the ball back. And then once the ball was won, she was the one on the run into attack, getting the ball in her hands and passing it on. And then she's involved again. She's absolutely gassed. She's hands on knees, but her work rate is unbelievable.
I mentioned it's a warm day, 26 at the moment here at Port Melbourne.
It's horrible, Pete.
Beautiful day. I think anyway, Freeman, you're not going to win that argument as O'Keefe goes into the middle of the ground and works with Hartog. Overlaps with McKellar, who wants to go wide. It's dangerous. Stutt's got some work to do, then eventually lost the footy. Then Maloney gets around a couple. Into the path here of Stutt, who goes back to her ruckman. And the ball inside 50, and we're at centre half back, and overlap they go. Ramsdale will work for the Pies. Can they get something going here? Peterson, a couple of bounces. The kick to centre half forward, looking for Williams, who's got the drop here. Right on the paint of 50, just paddling forward. Good burst of speed, but just ran out of room. Need some players running alongside. One of those is Peterson. It's right near the line, twisting, turning. Now the Pies should get something going. The kick on target. No, it's off targets. That was a bit of build-up, though, for Collingwood.
It's the first genuine overlapping run we've seen from them, and it was created because they trapped Port Melbourne into our broadcast side, so they couldn't open up the space and use their own run. They were able to do that, apply the pressure, create the turnover, and then use the space themselves.
Caruso to bring the footy back in. A long ball, and that's a great mark by Schutte. Wide into the middle. It's been cut off again. Ali, who's playing up the ground at the moment. Here's Ryan, wrapped up in the O'Keefe tackle. Eventually release the footy. A few players just taking their time getting up from that previous contest. That's how hard it was, and the umpire will come in and toss it up.
Emily Harley's shaking off a bit of a sore hand from that contest too.
Maloney, a good jump. Staying down was Freeman for Collingwood. Just dropping it there was McKellar. Jarvis for Collingwood, inside 50. It's going to be turned over again. Caruso takes the mark. So it's a better period of the game, this one for Collingwood. They're not able to impact the scoreboard. And here's Reid. Well, staying down there was Woolcock, former tennis player. I just mentioned that in one of the breaks, had that confirmed. Cox was right near the line. Did that go over? Not sure.
I mean, based on current AFL standards, it definitely didn't go over.
So the ball here will be tossed in. That was a photo finish, because I think if that ball was still in, Caitlin Cox would be charging towards goal.
Continued her day of almost.
Yes, Jarvis here for Collingwood. Peterson, nice pick up, but then wrapped up in the tackle, going nowhere. Getting through the traffic is Ashley Cooper. Ball deep inside the 50 for the Borough. They've got the numbers. Is this the finish for Cox? Bring it back almost again.
It was set up beautifully. Emily Harley's quick hands were brilliant, and Cox just wasn't able to bend that back enough. But I think the wind now is kind of coming across the ground towards where the broadcast side is. So that kick was made infinitely more difficult by the wind situation.
Lennox. Oh, it's dangerous though, trying to get this footy exiting 50. That should be a free kick for incorrect disposal. No call from the umpire. Freeman getting hands to it for Collingwood. Right near the line, will have it thrown in. So it's been all Port Melbourne. Just the one behind for Collingwood. 3 goals, 1 for Port. In this third term, they have put the foot down as they did last week against Essendon. A couple of players spoiling each other on that outer side. Walsh trying to go around the body. And it will be a Port Melbourne free kick out there. Will it be Borg to take it? It is. We'll just go high and long. Why not? Oh, Harley was out marked there. Lennox at the back. Good, strong hands. Oh, but it's a dangerous kick. Jarvis has some work to do. Handball spills out. It's going to fall to Borg again. Had to go with feet this time. Ryan just paddling forwards. No one's going to get clear of this one, I don't think. The umpire will say, give it to me.
I'll say it again, Pete. Work rate is everything in this game, and it's one of the biggest differences between the two sides. The way Port Melbourne transitions, whether it's ball in hand and trying to attack or ball out of hand and defending, the way they're able to switch their minds and make smart decisions to capitalise is really impressive.
Hartog trying to come through there for Port Melbourne. Cox was there as well. Osborne laying the tackle for Collingwood. That's gone high from Hartog, but it will be a Borough free kick, and it will go to Caruso. So Lauren Caruso at the top of 50.
Pushing them back, I think.
There's a call from the umpire. Well, that carries the initial pack, and this should be locked in again.
Yeah, the Pies have a tendency to just get trapped in their back half, which has been the case of the last part of this quarter. But
so ball back in the middle. Can the Pies turn this around? Or will it be Port Melbourne putting the foot down in the final term? The ball up towards half forward. Bacon just running out of room. And now they're just having to lay the tackles. The Port Melbourne players. Should mention too, Gemma, that there are black armbands the Collingwood players are wearing this afternoon.
Yes, therefore Grace Osborne's Nana Tina, who passed away suddenly. Her family's all watching from home up in New South Wales, so our best thoughts to them in a hard time. Grace has been playing well in the face of it all.
As Ellen has the footy for Collingwood. Kick inside the 50. Again, not able to break clear Pearce. And this should be held up again. The umpire waits an eternity and calls holding the footy. Well, difficult at the bottom of the pack to be able to release that footy, but the umpire's a lot closer than I am. So Izzy Bacon will take the free kick for Port.
I know I've harped on a bit about it, Pete, but gee, I'm excited about Izzy Bacon.
Whose kick
it over.
Intercepted by Walsh.
Every time.
You'll still be excited though. I think the excitement level's still there. Is that out of bounds on the full? It is. Yeah, that came off the foot, or the boot of the Port player. It was a photo finish, and Ellen to take it.
Good early signs from Collingwood, though, able to hold the territory straight off the bat, whereas in the previous quarters they've conceded.
As Walsh kick goes across the face, they're all calling. A couple of Port players are saying it was touched off the boot. Nothing doing, says the umpire, and Campbell will have the shot at goal.
Now, I'm not going to say anything because every time we've said something positive, it's sprayed. This is the trickier end when it comes to the win, though, so we should give that clarification.
So Campbell. Deliberate approach. Good finish. And the first of the last goes to Collingwood.
It's her first goal for the Pies, Ava Campbell. She kicked 2 behinds last week, so it's great to see her hit the scoreboard and to be so happy in her celebration from kicking that. But it's been tough going for the Pies. It's just their second goal for the day, but they've started this quarter really well. As I said, they've held the territory, which is something they conceded very quickly in each of the last quarters, early in the game. Early in the quarter, but also just that neat kick inside 50 was really smart. So it feels like they're being a little bit more methodical with the way they go forward.
I think that celebration also is the indication that they still believe here. They may not be able to get the win, but they might be able to just win the quarter at least, and put some pressure on Port Melbourne.
The tide. They only came within 8 points last week, so it wasn't like they were that far off the pace last week.
So ball back in the middle, Ryan. Just had it taken off her, and again they get that run through the centre of the ground. Seaton, first effort and second. Around the body, inside 50. Front position there for Reid. Just couldn't complete the mark. Now working there with Seaton. 2 great players for Port Melbourne today. And this ball is held up. Nope, it's going to be a high tackle. It's going to be a free kick going Collingwood's way. And Taylor assessing options, because there's not a lot of players who are free. That almost was hands in the back there for Ingram.
More than almost.
Yep, as Peterson. Handballs across. They try and get something going. The cross here to Ingram again, wrapped up in the tackle, trying to release the footy. Did just in the nick of time, but turned it over to Bacon, whose kick up towards centre wing is a good one. Trapped nicely by Reed. Handball across there to Williams. Back across to Reed, who's right near the boundary line, whose kick up towards half forward is okay. Cox just can't get that run going. The almost player of the day as Cronin for Collingwood. We'll work it around back towards centre wing. Still numbers here for the Borough. Bacon managed to get that handball away. Adams across the ground, and this is okay. Caruso will go into the middle. And Borg, handball over the top. They're building nicely again. O'Keefe, they've just got the overlap run. Ball inside 50. Here's a chance here for Harley, who's got plenty of space, can assess options, and fires and puts it out of bounds on the full.
Bella Clark, just quietly for Port Melbourne, has had some really important moments. She's not a star on the stat sheet, but you know, that little tackle there to win the ball back, little moments like that under immense pressure, she's done a fantastic job.
So Taylor's ball carries outside the 50. Ryan just lost a handle on it. Ball spills free. Caruso again for Port Melbourne. The ball's going to drop slightly short. Who's front and centre? No one can take clean possession. Eventually the Pies. Taylor again, just looking to release. As they head towards the boundary line. Picked up nicely by Walsh, who's high up and under kick. Good one. And talked about Ingram and the work that Ingram's done today. This ball over the top. Player in a little bit of space. Jacome up towards half forward. Here is Osborne, who's kick from the edge of the square, looking for Williams. Couldn't quite complete the mark. Had two to beat in the end. Ashley Cooper is there for Port Melbourne. Ball spills free. Osborne wrapped up in the tackle. Had no chance to get away. And we'll have it tossed up.
How was that stop and prop from Jacome? The way she did that in the middle in the face of two Port Melbourne players, was able to generate that inside 50. Really good stuff.
So the ball heading towards the boundary line. And this does eventually trickle over to safety for the Borough, who are under pressure. All the scoring. Second half down to that Fred Cook end of the grounds. Wrapped up in the tackle is Woolcock. Hartog. Slipped a handball out. It's been turned over. Peterson did well to break a couple of tackles. Oh, that's beautifully done. They deserve some reward here, the Pies.
Absolutely.
Remos. And they've turned it over. It may come straight back, though. No, eventually it is released. Well, that's a bit of tackling without the footy. Umpire didn't see that either. Woolcock needs to get rid of it. Does. It's vacant forward of centre here for Port Melbourne, so they really can't do much. Collingwood have just set up in the middle of the ground. Cronin, little dribbling ball. They can just get some run going. Ramsdale, whistle, throw, advantage paid, and away they go. Seaton for Port Melbourne to Frew. A long ball. Oh, there's one player inside 50. It's Reed running into an open goalable finish. Third for the afternoon. And they've got their ninth on the board for the game. Is there an echo?
Repeated by this crowd announcer. Just heartbreaking stuff for Collingwood, who held the territory. Should have had a couple of shots essentially on goal, but never quite comfortable enough because of the pressure that they're facing. And then for Port Melbourne to just flick it out, find the space. And Stella Reid's such a smart player. She knows when to run into attack as an attacking option. No defender was aware that she was going there. Everyone was so focused on the stoppage contest and everything there. Just the ability to slide forward and be that option to be hit up. But Port Melbourne just showed, even in the face of a bit of an onslaught in defence, they're still dangerous in that slingshot.
Good news if you're a Port Melbourne supporter. I use this oft-used term, premiership hangover. No problem for this team this season. They have just picked up where they left off. The dominant team in this competition continuing. Caruso just trying to hack a ball forward for the reigning premiers. And it spills to Ford. Second and third efforts was great. Work with Caruso. Ashley Cooper. Kick was smothered. Good tackling pressure again from the Port Melbourne players. They've done it all day today. Russo just popping it into the middle of the ground. There's going to be an over the shoulder. It'll be a Collingwood free kick. And I believe this footy's going to come back. It is.
The Pies just seem more proactive this quarter than over those first three. They felt reactive to what Port Melbourne was doing in the first part of this game. But now it's like, well, they're playing their own footy and they're forcing Port Melbourne to defend them rather than the other way around.
It's going to be turned over. Oh, the umpires collided with Lily Pearce in the middle of the ground. Nothing sinister there. They just didn't see each other as Wilcock, well, they were chatting earlier, as this kick goes up towards half forward. Through to run onto the footy. Ball low, inside 50, into the path of Patterson. Goes over the top, and it's just too big there for Jesse Williams as it goes over the line.
That looked dangerous again, just like the previous goal. Stella Reid snuck forward, no opposition, sitting in the goal square. Jesse Williams was in that same position. They just weren't able to hit her up as neatly as previously. But the Pies need to be a bit more aware of those half forwards and wings that are sliding forward without an opponent.
So Pearce going to work. Patterson held up. We'll do it again. Two really big scores for Port Melbourne to start off the season as well. So Patterson trying to take it out of the ruck. Cox was brought down. Did release the footy, said the umpire. Play on is the call. Surely something's going to happen here. It's going to be a free kick. Now we'll wait for them to all untangle themselves. It's going to be a Port Melbourne free kick.
Okay,
now,
time.
almost. Can almost be now.
Look, if you're Collingwood, you're hoping not.
For Caitlin Cox. A tough breeze has picked up in the second half of this game. This kick, it's got the height. Guess what? Almost got there.
Almost got there. It's just, you can't fault her work rate, and if she continues to play in such a way at both this level and AFLW level, she'll have a game where she absolutely blows it apart. So if you're a coach, you're looking at it and going, yeah, it didn't quite work, but everything else she did was fantastic. Just keep doing that. It'll work eventually.
Oh, absolutely. It may work in this second half of the final quarter as Bacon trying to work the footy around. Williams getting involved as well. Hartog will work it back to Bacon. Kick just too much there for Cox. So Collingwood with a chance just to release some pressure with a ball into the middle of the ground. Williams will be first in the race for this, and then puts the afterburners on. Takes a bounce as well. Oh, it didn't bounce back. That was unfortunate because there's three Port players trailing. Caruso will work into the middle of the ground. Borg will just get through her opponent and kick up towards the middle of the ground. And it's going to be a Collingwood ball. Ryan. Great build-up by Williams as this heads towards McKellar. Back to Borg. Over the top, Caruso. Been great today for Port Melbourne. Borg again. The kick up the line is going to be turned over. And it's Taylor.
Taylor had a pretty serious knee injury last year. Didn't really get to play a lot of footy, so it's good to see her playing in the VFLW to get that touchback ahead of VFLW season.
Watts to Cronin, long ball, bouncing footy, it's got there! And there are some Pie supporters here as well. And they've got another one in this quarter.
Ground announcer sounds shocked.
It just took off.
But that's what we mean, that we can't really predict what the wind's doing, because sometimes it's coming across the ground, sometimes it's going down. Lucy Cronin just got onto the end of that and made the absolute most of it. She's one, I know I've mentioned her a few times, Pete, but I'm very excited about what she can bring to Collingwood at AFLW level as a key defender, essentially. But seeing that she's got that sort of confidence in her to come up, and when she's in the position, why not get it deep? You never know what will happen, and we'll get to watch that for a number of years now, which is really exciting.
So 2 goals straight in this quarter for Collingwood. 1 goal, 1 for Port Melbourne. in the middle we go. Ryan was trying to get the extraction, but instead it's in Borough hands. Clark up towards centre half forward. Numbers with Collingwood. Back into the middle of the ground we go. The one-on-one might have been hands there from O'Keefe. The umpire said no as line. Kicks inside 50. Good pressure again from the Borough forwards. Just locking this, or trying to lock this footy in. Dyson has to get the handball away and did a good job. Jarvis will go wider. Into the path here of Campbell. Worried off it by McKellar to Borg. And they can steady. Here's Seaton. Be up near the best on the grounds today for you, Gemma?
She's the clear best on ground for me.
And goes inside 50. A congested top of the arc. Ingram, disposal winner on the ground as Collingwood try and make something happen. Williams crashed the pack. Oh, brilliantly done again. Put the afterburners on. Let's try again. Oh, that footy did bounce back again. What's wrong with this turf? And now the Borough go away again. Caruso. Oh, that's a pinpoint pass. And Frew will just slow things down, assess options, and make the right one. Across the ground to Stutz, who can take a bounce. And another one. Could almost keep going again. Decides to go inside 50, and that's a strong mark. Excellent work defensively from Lennox.
Lennox has had a fantastic second half. She's really shut Harley out of the game.
Well, this ball carries the pack. Caruso to O'Keefe, who's got time and space. To Seaton. Wide kick in the direction of Patterson, who did well to pick up the footy. Just handed off. Seaton again. Back to Patterson. Immediately wrapped up. Got the kick away. It's going to drop shorts. And the turnover is on. Shooty's got it. Looking for Taylor. And the wind just took that one. So it's Ingram who sends that one almost to the pickets.
Pete, Maggie McKellar has been fantastic today. She was on the unfortunate defender on Steph Williams when she took her first run into attack. All she needed to do was just stay in touch. She knew she wasn't going to catch her, but just keep the pressure on. And then some of her kicks, that one just there, that pinpoint pass into Federica Frew earlier, some of those kicks coming back out of defence have been brilliant.
Patterson just was worried off the footy. Shooty just needs to get that handball away. It's just off target. Here's Seaton again. Works to Adams. This kick, Frew stayed down, just took the pressure. Jarvis lost her handle on it for Collingwood. And it's going nowhere in a hurry. Next week, the Borough travel to DSV Stadium in Williamstown to take on the Seagulls. A standalone Rebel VFLW round. All the matches live right here, all with commentary as well this season. As the Pies will look just to clear it. They've got the numbers on our broadcast wing. And this ball not into the favour of Williams, so it's Lauren Caruso who has to go and get it for Port Melbourne. And ball could just take time to slow things down, assess. Oh, it's a great one-hander from Patterson. He wants to just go long. It's going to drop short. It's going to be cut off again by Lennox, whose kick into the middle of the ground is superb. 2 kicks and they're inside 50. Campbell trying to put it into the path of Williams. Front position was McKellar. Great repelling work just to get the Borough out of immediate danger. Patterson did well to get Taylor out of the contest initially, and then Taylor did well to follow up, and we'll have a thrown up.
I know they're up by a fair way, and a stoppage won't bother them, but I would have liked to see Maddie Patterson, sorry. I've got McKellar on the mind. Just kick that off the ground, gain a bit more ground, because they did have representation ahead of that play.
Ashley Cooper. Well, everyone stopped there hoping for a whistle that wasn't coming.
Like everyone went into slow.
And now we've got a holding the ball. There's your whistle. Not the right one if you're a Borough supporter, but certainly if you're a Pie, you're happy. Sarah Ingram, who's racked up the disposals today for Collingwood. Wobbly one inside 50. Off hands, Ashley Cooper. just rode the tackle, managed to get the handball away. Caruso's been in absolutely everything in this final term for Port Melbourne. They come crashing through. Slalom work there from Schutte, did well, but just lost a handle on it at the crucial moment. The 360 spin sees that kick go wide, and fortuitously to Reed. Long ball into the path here of Harley, who's just looking for someone to drive by. It's a flat foot start for Reed, but a good kick. Nope, it's going to be turned over again.
The Pies have adapted to this wind really, really well, and they're reading it coming into their back line really impressively. It's dropping short, so they've got that extra just sitting ahead of the deepest, one-on-one contest.
Remos goes long, inside 50. Here's Osborne. Just managed to get the handball away. Campbell is there, wrapped up in the tackle by McKellar, and the umpire will throw it up.
Yeah, impressed with the way the Pies have adapted in this last quarter. You just wonder where it's been for the first three, because at their best, they're a pretty dangerous-looking side.
But it's going to be a comprehensive win to Port Melbourne, the reigning premiers. They get it done by 40 points, 9-7, 61 to 3-3, 21. An impressive performance. Second up from this Port Melbourne side. They go to 2-0 on the Rebel VFLW table. And